Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome into the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Friday, November 6th, 2015. I am Dave Biddle, and I am very happy to be joined by Bucknuts columnist Brandon Castel. BCast, let's just cut right to the chase. I tend to think we're going to see an expanded role from Braxton Miller tomorrow night against Minnesota. What do you anticipate Braxton's role will be tomorrow night?
Yeah, great, and thanks for having me on, Dave, and always excited to do the Bucknuts Morning 5. And, I do anticipate an expanded role for Braxton on Saturday night. You know, I really think that some of the comments this week have made me believe that obviously they're using him a little differently in practice this week. I think I had said a couple of weeks ago I thought they would expand his role a little bit later in the year once you kind of get through the schedule and you're not so much worried about, him getting hurt early in the year. Obviously didn't expect him to play much quarterback before the suspension of J.T. Barrett, but I do think now with Barrett out, I do think that they're going to give him a little bit of a different look. When you think about the skill sets, there is a lot of familiarity and similarity between Braxton and JT. Obviously different style runners, but when you think about what JT has been asked to do in the red zone, I really think Braxton could be asked to do some similar things against Minnesota. I think Cardale will take the majority, and if not all the snaps outside of the red zone, and let Cardale do what he does. And I don't think they want Braxton Miller trying to throw 60-yard passes down the field, which is something he really hasn't done since he originally hurt his shoulder. But I could see them letting him throw a few passes in the short passing game, and then really using him as a runner. Using him on some of the same play calls that they did with J.T. Barrett. He's been very effective running the ball in the red zone. And Cardale has really struggled in the red zone. And so I think let those guys be comfortable with doing what they do. I don't know how Cardale will look because it's hard to get a gauge on where Cardale's head is at. If he's stayed positive and was mentally in a good place, then yeah, I think the pressure's off and he's kind of back to where he was before. Nobody's really expecting anything. It's an opportunity just to come out and play. And I think if he comes out with that mindset, then, I think he can be successful.
Obviously, Cardale did not play perfectly in the postseason last year, the magical 3-game run, but he played very well. And one thing that stood out to me, BCast, was he was relaxed. You look back on those games, you rewatch them, which I'm sure every Buckeye fan has rewatched those games like 10, 20 times. Cardale was very relaxed. He didn't have to look over his shoulder. He knew it was his show. That was not the case through the first 7 games of this season. It just seemed like a guy that was always looking over his shoulder. Kind of a softball here, but do you anticipate seeing a much more relaxed Cardale tomorrow night?
Yeah, I do. And some guys are wired for competition, and they're wired for when the pressure's on, they play their best. And you want that in a player. And I get, Urban Meyer basically has said that before. When people have been like, hey, do you think you did your quarterback a disservice by having them look over their shoulder? But the reality is he came out and said, no, I don't think so, because if you're going to play at an elite level, you should be ready to look over your shoulder. That competition should drive you. It should fuel you. It should make you better. It should make you want to play better. But I felt with Cardale, like he played tighter. He seemed to be less sure of himself. He seemed to be playing not to make mistakes rather than playing to make plays. And I think that's the biggest difference in what we saw last year. I think back to that Wisconsin game, and the guy came out, and I'm thinking first start of his career, so much pressure. He's never expected to be in this position. All season you had J.T. Barrett running the offense, and here's Cardale coming out in the Big Ten championship. There's no way this guy's ready for this. You're going to run the ball with Zeke and try to let him be a game manager. And the guy comes out and plays a fantastic game, played loose, let it rip. Didn't have Devin Smith obviously helped a lot, but I thought he looked like a guy who just wanted to go out and try to make plays and prove himself. This year it looked like he played more like a guy with something to lose. A guy who recognized that, any slip-up could be his last. And I don't think he's wired for that. Some guys are. I don't think Cardale is. For whatever reason, I don't think he's wired for that. He feeds off that positive energy, feeds off that good vibe, feeds off people, believing in him. And I think there's an opportunity for him to kind of brush off what happened earlier in the season, just come out and say, hey, whatever happens, happens. I'm just going to play football. If he can take that mentality, I think we'll see a much more relaxed Cardale because he knows, hey, I'm not coming out of this game. If I throw 5 picks, they're probably still going to go with Cardale. I don't anticipate Braxton Miller being the guy. I guess 5 picks would be a pretty crazy game. But anyways, I don't see him coming out of this game no matter how well he plays. So I think he can come out with a little bit more relaxed attitude.
Damon Webb will make his return from a 6-game absence tomorrow night. He will at least play on special teams. He's going to start on some special teams. Urban Meyer said on his call-in show yesterday. I think he'll get in there at corner. He'll get in there at nickel as well, although Urban didn't guarantee that or anything. Urban said that Damon Webb did nothing wrong. Said he was not suspended by the football department, indicating it was a university issue. All I will say about people are wondering what exactly happened. We can't get into specifics, but I'll just say it was a he said, she said type of thing. If you can't figure it out from there, God bless you, but that's as much as we can say about it. I think if you can read between the lines, you might know what happened there. But Damon Webb is now making his return, BCast. From a football standpoint, the impact on Damon Webb's return, and not just tomorrow night, but for the rest of the season.
Yeah. Well, first of all, again, I don't want to get into the details. I think anybody who's listening can kind of pick up on maybe some of the ideas of what happened there. But it is that it's not a normal situation when the football coach comes out and specifically spells out that he was not suspended and it was not football related, and that his status with the football team was never in question based on the coaches.
And he did nothing wrong.
Yeah, and he did nothing wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of an interesting and unique statement for a coach to make. You don't hear that too often. They kind of take the party line on that. So there obviously was some disagreement about what should have happened with Damon Webb, but we'll leave that in the past. It's unfortunate, if he did nothing wrong, it's very unfortunate for a kid to miss a significant chunk of a season like this where his team's ranked number 1 in the country. But I think his return is big, depending on, can he get back into the mix? Can he get comfortable? Has he got his head in the right place? You never know. He's a college kid. So I don't anticipate, anything from college kids necessarily. I got to see it to believe it. But, as a player, I really like what I saw from Damon Webb. I think he can be a guy that makes plays. He should be hungry coming back on special teams. But what I really like him is I liked what I saw in coverage. I thought there was a noticeable drop-off with Marshawn Lattimore when he came in. And it's not a knock on him. He was out with an injury and really was not the guy that they had expected to play a lot in that position. But I can say personally, with not a guy who's a college football coach or an NFL scout, but somebody who's followed the team and been around football for most of my life, I noticed a drop-off. I noticed Marshawn Lattimore struggled a little bit when he was thrust in there, and I thought Damon Webb was playing really well. So I think if he can get back into that nickel spot, I think it does help them. As long as he's in the right place, I think he'll be a factor the rest of the year. I think you'll see him get back in there and make some plays.
Let's talk about Joe Burrow a little bit. True freshman quarterback out of Athens, had a tremendous year in high school football last year, and that's putting it mildly. Ohio's Mr. Football was people wonder about level of competition. Then he gets to the playoffs, and he's tearing up great defenses like DeSales and other teams. And it's just, I think this guy is the heir apparent. I felt this way for a long time, BCast, that whenever J.T. Barrett's time is up, if he stays for all 5 years, then Joe Burrow will take over after that. If the 2016 season is J.T. Barrett's last year, if he leaves early, Burrow will then take over in 2017. That's just my take. And then I thought it very interesting earlier this week, Urban Meyer said that Joe Burrow is taking snaps with the varsity. Now, he's not going to play this year. They're going to redshirt him unless something drastic happens. But Stephen Collier is not getting reps with the varsity, quote unquote. He is the scout team quarterback, and you don't hear Urban Meyer ever mention Stephen Collier, where he's dropped Joe Burrow's name a few times, saying he's getting quality reps, and just throughout the year he's kind of dropped hints. And similar to what he did with J.T. Barrett a few years ago, I just feel like things are trending well for Joe Burrow. Just curious to get your thoughts on that, BCast.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% with you on that. I think that you draw a unique comparison to J.T. Barrett, because that's what I was about to say, was that to me, I see a little bit of JT, not in their games necessarily, but in the way that they kind of fit into the system. A little bit under the radar as recruits. I think Joe Burrow is a 3-star by some services. I think he was a 4-star by 24/7. But he wasn't a guy that was considered to be Gatorade National Player of the Year. Obviously, all the fanfare was for Torrance Gibson, a guy who was a 5-star quarterback, but also a guy that some schools were only looking at as a receiver. A ton of athletic talent, obviously, and a big guy with a big arm. But, as we've seen now with Cardale and JT, I think this coaching staff knows what they're looking for. They're looking for a guy who's accurate, who can get the ball out to the playmakers, who's smart, who's a leader, who makes good decisions, makes the players around him better. I can't count the number of times Urban Meyer has said that about his quarterback, that he's got to be a guy that makes the players around him better. And I think that's what Joe Burrow does, and I think that's why he's moved ahead of a guy like Stephen Collier. That's not a knock necessarily on Stephen Collier. I think, sometimes you don't know what their philosophy is behind who's going to take snaps with the varsity and who's going to give them their best look on the scout team. But I do think that Joe Burrow is the guy. I never thought Stephen Collier necessarily was the future. Not to say that he couldn't be, because certainly, there's time, and that's the crazy thing to think about, Dave. When you sit back, you say, wait a second, JT Barrett, it could be here for 2 more years after this. So, when we talk about the future, it's not, JT Barrett's a senior this year and Cardale Jones is a senior, or Cardale Jones is going to leave early and JT Barrett's, there's not this idea that Joe Burrow or Stephen Collier is going to be the starting quarterback next year. You're really looking at 2017, potentially even 2018, which is a lot of time. A lot can happen. Let's see what happens with Torrance Gibson. I think he ends up at wide receiver, eventually permanently, depending on how things progress with Joey Burrow. But to me, yeah, I'm with you 100% that if you had to tell me right now to pick a guy, I would go with him out of the guys, after JT.
Last topic on the show, of course, the game tomorrow night, 8 p.m., ABC, Brad Nessler and Todd Blackledge on the call. Let's give some predictions here, how the game is going to go. I will let you go first, sir. How do you foresee this game going? Give me a final score prediction.
Yeah, it's an interesting game because, Minnesota, so much going on with them. They lose their head coach in the middle of the season, a guy who's proven to be a pretty good head coach when he can stay healthy. And then they go out and almost beat Michigan. They have the crazy ending to that game. I've never seen – I'm still struggling to get over the end of that game. They have 19 seconds, and they're on the 2-yard line, and they run a 17-second play, or the 1-yard line, they run a 17-second play. It's hard to believe, but if you think about it, what they did in that game was their quarterback, he threw for over 300 yards. He really attacked a Michigan defense that has been very, very good this season. And so to me, that's what this game comes down to. Can they get pressure on Ladner and really be able to take him out of his spot and get him off his comfort zone? I think they've proven they can do that. They did that with Christian Hackenberg. They've done that with other quarterbacks this year. Joey Bosa, Adolphus Washington, Tyquan Lewis, those guys up front. I think they've done a good job, and the back end has been pretty good. We've seen a few miscues, but to me it comes down to getting after the quarterback, and then, what's Cardale going to look like? I tend to think, and I think I said in my roundtable this week, that I think Cardale is going to come out and have a big week. I think he's going to put up some numbers, play loose, and kind of comfortable the way that we just talked about. But I think there'll be moments where they struggle because, you're making another midseason quarterback change, and that's always difficult to kind of stop and start and go back to this guy and go to that guy. Now Braxton Miller might be your red zone quarterback, but I think Braxton can come in and make some plays, and obviously you've still got Zeke and Michael Thomas and all those guys. So I called it 35-21. I do think Minnesota will get some scores. I just think they're a good football team and they've got some emotion going, but I think Ohio State will end up pulling away.
Urban Meyer would take that. He just wants he has the Al Davis philosophy, just win, baby. Buckeyes favored by 23. BCAS has them winning but not covering. I have them barely covering. I have Ohio State winning this game 38-13. As you mentioned, Minnesota, strong defense. I think I have a lot of respect for what this assistant coaching staff has done. Obviously, they're without Jerry Kill, but these are guys that have been with him for a long time. I mean, they looked bad last week in that Michigan loss, as you said. That was just terrible clock management. But overall, these assistant coaches have done a good job. Now Tracy Clay's taken over as the interim head coach, and he's been the defensive coordinator under Jerry Kill for 16 years, took over as interim head coach a couple years ago. So I look for Minnesota to mix things up. They have nothing to lose. We see teams all the time do things that they never do on film against Ohio State, so expect the unexpected if you're Ohio State. So I think there's going to be some tumultuous moments early in the game, but I think Ohio State's just going to pull away late. They're going to win this game 38-13, but I don't think it's going to be easy. I do think we're going to see a lot of Braxton Miller, as you mentioned, in the red zone, and they might even make the red zone the 35-yard line and in. But looking forward to this game. Good to be back on the football field after a week off. We'll see if the Buckeyes can go 9-0. Great stuff, as always, out of Brandon Castel. You can catch his column every week, Inside the Brain of BCast. He always comes strong on the show here. I'm having him on even more than I said I was going to because he's very good at this. And real quick, if you're not a Bucknuts subscriber for some reason, make sure you take advantage of our buy 1 month, get 2 months free offer. It takes you through the rest of the college football season and all the way through signing day. Again, that's 3 months of Bucknuts for just a total of $9.95. Like $3.33 a month for the next 3 months. Takes you all the way through the season, all the way through signing day. So make sure you take advantage of this offer. We're going to run it only for a couple more weeks. So take advantage of our buy 1 month, get 2 months free offer while it still lasts. Thanks again to Brandon Castel, and thanks to you for tuning into the show. I appreciate it. I hope you have a great day and a great weekend. Take it away, best damn band in the land.